Last time on D&D. After reuniting at the bottom of the stairs leading back up into the Grand Cemetery, the adventurers assisted the semi-conscious Raven God back into the chapel. Gideon awaited the adventurers atop the stairs and was eventually convinced that Raven God was not part of the demonic presence there. Before they left, the adventurers were curious about what was in the adjacent room to the chapel. Gideon tells them that that is his living quarters and that the really only thing of note there is a book he had been writing. He asked the adventurers if they would like to see the book, and since none of them visibly disagreed that harshly, he ran off like a giddy virgin on prom night and retrieved it. He soon returned with his flesh-bound tome and handed it to Darius to glance over. Darius gathered enough to see that the book was the result of a madman's scribblings about his devotion to Zariel and to the destruction of the demonic plague. Gideon then informed Darius that he had only been contacted by Zariel once in Elturel before the fall. Not wanting to lose contact permanently with such a valuable resource, Darius insisted that he could get Gideon a book deal and have his book read by thousands. Gideon did not even think that this would be a possibility, but was extremely excited about the proposition. Darius then used some type of magical spell that he could edit the text of at a later date to indicate when they had secured the book deal and where the adventurers were at currently. Gideon was instructed to come to this location as quickly as possible whenever it was inscribed on the wall. Having dealt with Gideon, the adventurers head back to the High Hall. On the way, they spot an unarmed man being accosted by two rotting goat-like creatures. The adventurers desired to avoid any unnecessary combat, however, Rhea and Lulu felt compelled to lend their assistance. Mirth was able to successfully surprise one of the goat creatures, nearly taking it out in a single blow. Once the creatures were dispatched, the man identified himself as Orin Ragron, the owner of a blacksmith shop in town. Darius, trying to turn this act of charity and goodness into one of greed and personal gain, urged the man to sign his soul away, but he was resistant. They returned to the High Hall Cathedral, and Mirth analyzed the religious text she gathered for clues on how to remove the helm from Raven God. Mirth gathered that they will need one person reciting the ritual prayer, a cleansed altar to Torm, and a symbol of self-sacrifice and courage. The adventurers recall the basins of holy water beneath the High Hall and fetch some to cleanse the altar with. Rhea reminds the characters of the red-haired woman who sacrificed herself and suggests her sword as a suitable symbol so that Lulu can avoid being sacrificed. Mirth decides to read the prayer herself, and Endormu takes hold of the sword and places it against the helm on Raven God's head. When he does so, a spectral image of Tyr appears before him and instructs Endormu to stay upon the righteous and just path. As Mirth begins reading the ritualistic prayer, Tyr probes Endormu's understanding of his teachings. During this probing, the demonic spectral images emerge from the helm and attack the other adventurers. These spectral images are slain swiftly, however. They do take a toll on Endormu, who fell unconscious mid-battle. Regaining his strength, Endormu is able to finish the ritual and remain steadfast in his religious beliefs. Once the ritual is complete, the helm falls off Raven God's head and he slowly regains his composure. Raven God tells the adventurers about the visions he had while in this state, and that Lulu and Zariel's sword are the key to Elturel's salvation. These visions prompt Lulu's memories of being rescued by two Kenku at a place called Fort Knucklebone. Raven God urges the characters to look into this lead and that he will stay behind to protect the remaining survivors of Elturel. While Rhea feels the need to stay with the adventurers, she is compelled to assist Raven God help defend her home and her people. She bids the adventurers goodbye as they begin their descent to the surface of Avernus. As the characters begin their flight to the surface below, they are witness to a gruesome battle between legions of devils and demons. Both are desperately trying to secure a foothold at the surface below Elturel, with neither side giving way. The adventurers manage to avoid the attention of the main armies, however, a curious bone devil swoops in to strike. As the battle commences, it becomes clear that while powerful, the bone devil is simply outmatched and its corpse crashes down onto the pit fiend, leading the devil's charge below. Once the characters reach the surface, their traveling becomes a gruesome one. Every step taken feels like making your way through 1 foot of loose sand. The harsh, dry air makes the adventurers' lungs sting with every breath they take. Pieces of scrap metal litter the landscape along with pools of pure black demonic ichor, indications of previous battles. When the adventurers finally feel as if they are about to arrive at the fort, they come upon a cave instead. Confused, Lulu takes to the sky and sees that there are now 5 miles away from the fort, and it is in a completely different direction than before. In the cave, the adventurers hear the bickering of some imps, arguing about cheating in whatever game they are playing. Eminem, at hearing these imps, mindlessly decides to fireball all of them, in hopes that they would be destroyed. However, the imps appear unscathed, but furious that their table and dice have been destroyed. An imp emerges from the cave and asks the adventurers what the hell the problem is. The adventurers take this opportunity to attack the imp and scour the cave for the others, but only finding one other imp and a handful of soul coins. Back on track, they make their way to Fort Knucklebone, where they are greeted by some small gnomish-looking creatures with red caps on their heads. The adventurers make their desire known to enter the fort, which the gnome was obliged to, but not before making the adventurers dance around and slap each other. Once inside, they spot the 2 Kenku Lulu mentioned, and before they can approach them, the Kenku motion for the adventurers to stay put, and they go and fetch an old hag of a woman and her companion made of hobbled together body parts of various fiends. The woman introduces herself as Mad Maggie, and is immediately interested in Lulu for her intimate knowledge of Zariel. Lulu explains that she cannot remember much, and Mad Maggie insists that she could help bring Lulu's memories back with a ritual that will take some time to prepare. She explained that she is fascinated with Zariel, and that this would be a beneficial arrangement for everyone. The adventurers hesitantly agree to the ritual, and Mad Maggie leaves to prepare. Mirth, untrusting of Mad Maggie, fucks around for 20 or 30 minutes trying desperately to get inside before casting invisibility on herself to discover that Mad Maggie is just preparing the ritual like she said she was. In her bitterness, she nabs a book on her way out that happened to contain some various spell scrolls. So, there's that at least. Having some side quests to complete before the main quest triggers, having some time to kill before the ritual is ready, Eminem decides to create a tiny hut and decides to fuck off and stay inside that hut for almost the entire session instead of engaging with any of the characters that have been introduced with lengthy descriptions of what they are doing and what they're feeling. But nope, fuck that shit, I'm staying in this little hut. Mirth decides to approach the 2 Kenku instead of fucking off, who are tinkering with an infernal war machine that they cannot get to run. Mirth identifies the problem with a particular spiky gear that had been imbued with magic inhibiting its function. She drags Endormu over so that he can cast Dispel Magic, and instantly the vehicle begins to roar its engines as the Kenku are overjoyed. Mirth then approaches the 2 imps perching above the fort. They eventually come clean and ask Mirth for their help in eliminating a particular madcap they think is plotting to kill them. They insist that if Mirth takes care of it, they will put in a good word to Mad Maggie about them. The imps tell Mirth that the madcap has taken a liking to pissing on their favorite perching spot multiple times a day, and that will be when he is most alone. While waiting for the madcap to indulge in its pissing ritual, Mirth spots a gaggle of redcaps harassing Mickey, the fiendish golem, dancing around him and poking him while screaming, "Do the Mickey!" at him. Mirth finally notices that they are doing this because something is wrong with one of Mickey's feet. She is finally able to coax Eminem out of his tiny hut to help with this medical emergency. Once the bone fragment is removed from his foot, you can see that Mickey is relieved to be free of that pain for good. The redcaps heckle you as you leave for ruining the Mickey. The piss fiend Madcap finally leaves his other piss enthusiast friends and waddles on over to his favorite pissing spot. He begins to scream as piss mixed with blood begins to pour out of him. Mirth takes this opportunity to sneak up on the Madcap and pierces his heart with one single blow. As it dies, its screams intensify as it bursts into flames before all that is before you is its metal boots and sickle. Lastly, Mirth enlists the help of Darius to return a missing tooth to a flaming skull called Barnabas. Darius spots the redcap with a bloody pouch and sees it put the pouch under its cap on its head. Darius tries to delicately lift the hat from its head, but misjudges it so badly that he knocks the hat, along with the pouch inside of it, off its head. It is with this distraction that Mirth picks up the bloody bag before the redcap even notices what is happening. With all the side quests complete, Mad Maggie invites you all inside her trash hut. In the center of the room is a circle with runes covering the outside. Lines lead to the center of the circle in which a cushion is placed. She motions for the adventurers to stand around the circle, and for Lulu to sit in the center. What will this ritual have in store for our adventurers? Tune in next time for some more D&D!